Hello and welcome back to We Talk Talent, our highly popular interview series where we uncover stories, strategies, and solutions driving the future of talent, HR innovations, and leadership. I'm Avik Roy, Associate Content and Community from ETHRWorld, and it's my pleasure to introduce the guest of our today's episode, Shiv Kumar, Head HR from Merck India. Hi Shiv, we are so glad to have you here. Welcome to We Talk Talent.
Hi, Abhik. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to this conversation.
Equally my pleasure, and I'm also very much looking forward to the interaction. So, without wasting much time, I'll just start with my first question. So, GCCs are now scaling rapidly in India, but it's not just about scaling, but one main shift that is needed right now is moving away from just delivering work to actually owning critical global capabilities so that they actually support, not just support, but they actually drive the global operations from here in India. In your view, what separates GCCs that will do that, that will make that shift, will truly become, strategic innovation centers for their global operations and will not remain mere, execution centers?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very important question. So I think in my experience, what I have seen is, how global, I would say, organizations look at subtle changes in the way their GCCs are looked at. For example, simple things like in meetings, if the question shifts from did we invite India on the call to why is India not on the call? So to me, that is such a strategic shift. It sounds simple, from a language perspective, but then that tells me that we are moving away, from a language perspective and the way we view the capability centers itself. So one of the things that I would say that comes to my mind right away would be how the organization views its GCC itself. Does it still use the GCC as a local delivery center, or just a hub, so on and so forth, or does it also look at the center in terms of decision making? I think that is going to be a very, very important aspect. Earlier when I joined GCCs, of course, the whole conversation was, hey, is it a cost play, so on and so forth. But today, I think that conversation is not happening anymore. The other thing to move into a strategic, center would be to look at whether it is piecemeal work that is being done by the capability center, or is there a chunk of work that is being done from an end-to-end ownership point of view? And that is the biggest shift that I see that is happening at Merck or in the GCC landscape itself. The other element that I have seen in my past 2 decades of experience would be, just the way we integrate from a structural and decision-making point of view. Today, the global decision-making, the leadership, etc., is based out of the capability center itself. It is not post facto that the GCC leaders come into the picture. No, I think that particular narrative has changed completely.
Is there like autonomy when it comes to decision making in GCCs?
I think it's changing. It's changing, or rather, it's changed in many mature GCC, like the one we have at Merck as well. It because the question was, can India do this? Now the whole conversation is, why can't India do this? Why not consider India to do this? I think those conversations have changed, and that happens only when the trust is built in the organization, and then comes autonomy, to your point. So that is the way I look at it. Autonomy, yes, absolutely. That is taking place. There are a lot of decision-making roles, I would say, autonomy driven roles that are based out of the capability center. But there is a precursor to that, and that is trust.
Now GCCs are clearly, expanding in India. So for that, talent is needed. I want to know from you, where are you seeing the balance right now? Is it the, the fresh talent, or is it the mid professionals or senior expertise? And also, for Merck, are you exploring tier two and tier three cities also now, actively as potential talent hotspots?
Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about. From where is the biggest talent crunch, I would say. So in my mind, and you would agree with me that when we speak about fresh talent, there is abundance of fresh talent. But I think the larger question is it relevant talent for the capability center? But that can still be addressed through training, so on and so forth. But in my mind, the biggest talent crunch comes in the middle layer and the senior management layer. And I will qualify why I'm saying that. One is the nature of crunch has changed in due course of time. Because earlier, if you see, there were many services organizations. And then came the whole advent of the capability centers, so on and so forth. hence, what we saw was that we had a lot of general management expertise in the market, but we didn't have specialists in the market. When we look at a capability center, and going back to your question in terms of autonomy, if you require autonomy, you need to build trust. And that will happen only when you have leadership, your middle management, who are specialists in the areas that they will be operating in. Whether it is supply chain, whether it is patient safety, product management, you name it, anything for that particular matter. So one needs to be a specialist. I think that's the biggest nature of crunch that has changed completely. The second is, again, if you want to have a seat at the table as a capability center, your talent bar needs to be the same, irrespective whether I'm based out of the next country or I'm based out of India for that matter. Right. So, from that perspective, it becomes very, very important that we have the same bar. Now, coming to the other part of your question in terms of are we exploring tier two, tier three areas? I would say the answer is pretty simple in our mind, and that is we are going to hire wherever we get talent, but we will focus on a few areas, and that is the areas that we are present in right now, whether it is Bangalore, Mumbai, Hyderabad. So we continue to remain there, and for now we welcome talent from across the country to join us, and that is why we cast the net wide from a talent attraction perspective, and that is something that is going to continue in the near future.
Great. Now, we're talking also about skills, and of course, with tech advances, the shelf life has really shrunk. At Merck, how are you upgrading the learning and capability building agenda, to make sure the workforce is very future ready, be it in terms of AI or any other tech advances that's happening?
Yeah, I'm smiling because wish there was a right answer to this particular question, because the way technology is changing um, is at a breakneck speed. And in my mind, no organization has gotten it right. I mean, earlier it was about, okay, the computers would come in, it would disrupt the market. Then we spoke about Y2K. Then we spoke about RPA. Now we're speaking about AI. So there is no time for, I would say, the workforce to actually settle. So the only thing that we keep advocating to our employees is it is not the technical skills which is the biggest asset in my mind. It is the ability to learn. It is the agility, from a learning perspective that will help us keep maybe at the pace, or we would love to be ahead, but then at least at the pace that the technology is changing. But I also want to be clear that when we speak about these skills, it is also as much as the responsibility of the organization, but it is also the responsibility of the individual to be in the driver's seat. So it cannot just be the organization which is doing 15,000 things and then the folks are not keeping up with it. So what are we doing? We are doing multiple things. For example, we're moving away from role-based skills to, I would say, skill-based thinking. So that is what we are looking at. The focus there is on skills itself. We focus on transferable skills because, like I was mentioning, it is about learning agility. Because the roles change. Today we may have an X role in a certain shape and form, but tomorrow that may not even exist. So we focus on problem solving, we focus on learning agility, we focus on, let's say, digital fluency, storytelling, collaboration, so on and so forth. Because these are the skills that you will travel with from one role to the other in whatever shape and form. So I think that is one very important aspect. The second one that comes to my mind immediately would be learning has to be embedded in day-to-day work. It cannot be a classroom, it cannot be a training calendar. While we have all those, but it needs to be embedded into the daily work. So we have something called a My Growth platform. Think of it as a marketplace for learning opportunities, talent, so on and so forth. It provides visibility on what are the kind of projects available, what are the kind of roles available. Assignments, if you want to do a short-term assignment or a long-term assignment, could be across functions, could be across geographies, so on and so forth. So that way we are putting the employee in the driver's seat, because that is what we would like them to start thinking about. And most importantly, of course, we are a science and technology organization. So for us, the most important thing will continue to remain curiosity. And that we believe is a capability, that is a skill that cannot be taught, but how do we embed it on a regular basis? So in my mind, if I have to summarize everything, it is learning how to learn is the only way forward.
Yeah, that's a wonderful, lesson. Acha, you also talked about micro platform. If you could take me through its journey, like how it came about and any impact recently you would like to share about it.
Sure, absolutely. So, My Growth platform, it's been around for a couple of years, and the genesis of that is pretty simple. We are based about out of 60 odd countries. We have three different areas of business. Uh, we're very diverse, from a demographics perspective, because we have life science, we have healthcare, we have electronics, we are a group company as such. So if we need to provide talent mobility to our employees, then the first step will be, how do we provide visibility to our employees in terms of the opportunities that are available across this complex maze of opportunities that exist in the organization across multiple geographies. That was something that was identified. When we identified that, then the question came up, okay, there are opportunities, great, but then can I also have something put together where I can also see that I have certain skills, I have certain capabilities, but what else do I need to look at my future role, or to look at my, I would say, dream job within the organization? I want to move from life science to electronics, perhaps. So what do I do? Then we needed to address that particular aspect as well. So that is also available currently on my group. Then people were like, okay, I might not want to take on a job full time in another department, but I just want to experiment to get a feel of what that is like, let's say, to work in a different department. Then we have opportunities which are assignments. It could be a short term assignment, for example, where you work a few hours a month or a few hours a day, depending on the nature of the assignment, in a different department. So then the person, I mean, I hate saying it, but it's like, try and buy kind of a thing, where you try that particular role, see if it resonates with you, and then you take a decision whether you want to pick up that role. So that also was baked into the entire platform. So there are multiple aspects that have been baked in to ensure that it is a talent marketplace, both for the managers and for the employee as well. We're seeing great success because it is no more about being restricted by a particular geography. Geography now does not play a very, very important role. Today, I can pick up a role in Germany, or I can pick up a role in Norway if there are opportunities available. So it is about whether I want to, remain in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting and very thoughtful. Thank you for that. Also, talking about DI, any initiatives recently that Merck has done in India that you would like to share?
One of the most unique benefit that we have at Merck, where we cover our employees from a fertility benefit point of view. So, and employees are, and okay, I'll take a step back as to why this was done. As we look at newer generations focus predominantly on career, but at the same time, they do not want to lose out on what comes from a family perspective. So they want to delay parenthood, right? But they do not want to, compromise on anything. So then what we thought was, okay, why don't we bring both of them together in one solution? So today, our employees can look at IVF, our employees can consider, let's say, egg freezing, sperm freezing, so on and so forth, so that they don't have to focus on one particular space, but can focus on their career should they choose to, but at the same time are not thinking of, hey, I'm aging perhaps, and how will it work in the future? So we have taken away that stress from their mind, and today we cover all the expenses that come up to a certain limit, and this is outside of the insurance, and we've seen great uptake.
Wonderful. I think be the philosophies you shared or the initiatives, and very sharp, very well thought out. Thank you so much for that. One last question for you, Shiv. As now again, coming back to the GCC point. So GCCs are, now taking on more complex work, taking on more complex responsibilities. For that, now of course the GCC momentum is something that entire India is witnessing. But to sustain that momentum, consistent performance, consistent productivity is very critical. Any like AI or data-driven tools, that's helping HR particularly, in reshaping how workforce performance or productivity is managed.
Yeah, you know, I think no conversation is complete without speaking about AI these days in conferences, or I think it's interesting that, you brought it up in the context of performance, because AI is new, so I think everybody is learning more about AI and how it's going to impact, and different organizations are following, different aspect. But our philosophy from a Merck perspective is pretty simple, and that is these need to complement each other. I mean, it is not versus AI versus humans, and that is something that we see in our day-to-day experiences as well. So there are a few things. For example, let's say the danger with data driven performance management, in my mind, is that it can reduce a human being to a metric. And I think we want to stay away from that, for a foreseeable future, I would say. What we are asking is that, okay, AI will help you, through some particular areas. And if there is additional bandwidth, how do we harness that particular bandwidth from an innovation perspective? What are the different things, from an excellence perspective that you can make investment? Are you okay to make use of the time that you now have, let's say, in learning newer things?
Sure. So, I just ask AI, are you using AI in employee experience then?
Oh, absolutely. Like the My Growth platform that I spoke about, I mean, that uses a lot of AI so that we're able to map, let's say, skills to employees, to recommend. Like you must have seen in e-commerce platforms, you buy a shirt and then it tells you what kind of jeans, perhaps. So it is something similar where, okay, fine, you have expressed your interest in a particular kind of role. Then what are the other things that you could be interested in? You could set up notifications, for example, so that those notifications come to you. I mean, there are multiple things that we look at from a talent intelligence perspective. We use AI to ensure that we're able to predict further, from a nutrition point of view, let's say, or we use it from a DEI perspective as well to understand better which are the pockets that are feeling included, or the inclusivity is higher or lower, whatever the case may be. So I think there's a lot that we are doing. We are also trying to integrate it with the day-to-day aspects from an employee lifecycle perspective, so that an HR person is not required, or HR services is not required, and they have the responses available to them as and when they want it. So there is a lot of integration. We are learning as we are going. I think AI is teaching us new things and what it is capable of. But yes, in addition to that, we also have something called MyGPT internally itself, because some organizations do not allow it, but we are, front runner when it comes to AI adoption. So we encourage our employees to use MyGPT, which is, a Merck platform itself, where we have the latest LLMs on it. So we encourage our employees that use that, so that we are able to reduce the transactional work. And we don't shy away from saying that, hey, this particular piece is AI written. I think you're taking away the shame from it, because some people come back and tell us that, oh, this sounds like ChatGPT. That's perfectly fine. Use MyGPT.
Yeah, I think that's very critical, to take that shame away and embrace AI. Very true. Thank you so much for sharing so many insights, and very practical and very needed ones. I'm sure the viewers are going to really apply a lot of those in the organizations very soon. Thank you so much, Shiv, for taking out the time to join us.